And we were just listening in to the House Judiciary Committee hearing focused on oversight of the FBI. Live from Capitol Hill with more on this is Joe Khalil, who is speaking with one of the lawmakers who just questioned the FBI director. Joe?
Yeah, we have Congressman Eric Swalwell here live from California. He's joining us. Congressman, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so you were just inside of that hearing. Before we get into some of the details of your concerns you brought up, how would you characterize how Director Wray has been answering the questions? Clearly, Republicans concerned about weaponization of the FBI. How would you characterize what you heard so far?
He's a consummate professional. Look, he leads an organization that oversees, terrorism investigations, money laundering investigations, cyber investigations. And he's walked into a partners meeting of Insurrection LLC, this group that just wants to focus entirely on one client, Donald Trump. It's bananas that the FBI director, who we need to focus, on serious crimes, is only being asked about investigations into Donald Trump. We had mass shootings over the 4th of July weekend in every part of the country, including my district. And I think Americans want to know, what are you going to do to keep us safe, not what are you going to do to protect Donald Trump.
And he made the point that while the Donald Trump, the Hunter Biden investigations, those get a lot of the attention, but there are thousands of cases the FBI works on, behind the scenes. I do want to mention, though, the Republicans concern some of them, especially as it comes to the Horowitz report and others, the Durham report. There is this perception that there were some people at the highest levels of the FBI that did have sort of internal biases that were driving some of their decisions. Do they have a fair point in bringing that up? That they say is a major concern.
Well, in the Durham report, nothing that Durham said changed the fact that Donald Trump asked the Russians to get Hillary's emails, had a secret, plan to develop a Trump Tower in Moscow, and welcomed all the help that the Russians gave him. Where there were individual cases of misconduct, absolutely they should make changes, but those are process changes. Those aren't substantive changes that change what actually happened, in the Russia investigation. So yes, of course, law enforcement, they're not perfect. Like any workforce, they should make changes, to aspire to be perfect, but they're never going to be perfect. But there's no, material issue with law enforcement in America as far as a political bias.
Do you think that the FBI director so far has been as forthcoming as he should be? And for example, I referenced earlier, there were some concerns both Democrats and Republicans were bringing up about, say, collection of our data and the FBI potentially paying private companies for that data. He seemed to not have a lot of the answers that even Congresswoman Jayapal, that Congressman Gates brought up. Again, both sides of the aisle concerned about this. Do you think he should be more prepared with those answers in the public hearing and not just say, I'll get back to you in a private setting?
Well, the issue is, does he get back to us? And I'll take him at his word that he's going to get back to us. Look, we have a lot of transparency in, the surveillance nature of the FBI, the NSA, et cetera. And we should, again, hold them to the highest standard, make sure they're only going after the bad guys and that innocent Americans' privacy is not affected. But, I'll look forward, to his response.
And we heard a little bit also about, again, the Hunter Biden investigation, and Republicans brought up concerns about there is this IRS whistleblower. What do you make of the whistleblower's claims so far?
Look, Hunter Biden was indicted by a Trump-appointed prosecutor. Hunter Biden has now paid back the taxes that he owed. He was actually also, accepted responsibility on a gun charge, which, Republicans don't even believe, we should have. So to me, this just seems like they're trying to weaponize, the non-consensual, obtaining of Hunter Biden's laptop. And they're upset that the FBI, they believe, is standing in the way of the contents of that laptop being more widely disseminated, which to me, again, is crazy. And for Jordan to say that the 2020 election was decided the way it was because more info about Hunter Biden's non-consensual nudes was not out there, I mean, that's bananas to me. Like, let's focus on policy issues, not a private citizen's non-consensual search of a laptop.
And just one more. We've heard a number of Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, talk about the idea of either defunding or greatly reducing the funding that Congress approves for the FBI, for the Department of Justice. Do you think that is realistic? They control the House. And what would be the implications of that?
Look, I support funding the police. I'm the son of a cop. I was a prosecutor. My brothers are cops. I know the value they bring to our community. I want them to have the best training. I want to make sure that we hold them to the highest standards. But when you say things like that, you just put a target on the back of law enforcement. And also, you are sounding completely, contrary to what you accused Democrats of in the 2020-2022 election, which was that we wanted to defund the police. We're defending the police, in light of all of the attacks that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are making.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.